I think we need to just kind of embrace this idea that our system is designed to have discord. We are designed to be in discord so that we are required to resolve it. That's the beauty of the system. That's why we have a House, we have a Senate, we have a president, and we have a judicial system. Mm-hmm. And everybody keeps each other in check. And the beauty of the system is that we can come at this from completely different directions, maybe wanting different destinations. And I think many times we don't. We want the same destination, but we come into it trying to solve the needs in different ways. And we clash. And the average voter knows how to clash and resolve it.
I started Coffee with Humans as a way to make meaningful connections. See, I believe when people on individual journeys cross paths, real good can come from that. And in that sacred moment, we have the opportunity to do three things. Name reality and describe the future we want. Destroy things for our good by moving on from that which no longer serves us. Create or recreate ourselves, moving us to the reality we describe. That's the essence of Coffee with Humans, making the world a better place. One conversation at a time.
Oh, I heard there was an election last night. I'm not even.
It totally
Actually,
was.
It was, the most that I'll probably go, because I honestly don't do a lot of politics, but it was my first election as a U.S. citizen voting for president. So that was pretty cool.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So, that's a neat discussion.
I know. I didn't, people were like, why don't you do the early voting and all that? No, you know what? Because in 2016, I had applied to become, sorry if you hear the dogs. I had applied to become a U.S. citizen thinking that, it would be done and wrapped up by the time the election happened. Not so much. So I actually got sworn in May of 2017. So just a little over 3 years ago.
Wow.
So this was my first time. I've voted for some other things, but this is my first time voting, in the big one. So
awesome.
Yeah, so it was exciting.
No, that's cool. Well, yeah, you exercised your rights, which is, I think that's very exciting and worthwhile.
I know. It's a neat experience. In 2016, because I took my wife to go vote and just, went through the line with her, and, we made the mistake of going in the afternoon, and it was a pretty long line. And the school where we vote, they, back 4 years ago, they let everybody in. It was like, we're just kind of like winding around the hallways, and we were probably in line for over an hour, but it moved pretty consistently. But we went early this time, and mornings here in the 30s, which it's nippy.
Yeah.
And they weren't letting anybody in inside the building, so the line was out on the sidewalk, which was a little annoying. So and we weren't really prepared for that. So I said, okay, you stay in the car, and I'm going to just stand in line and freeze my butt off until I get close to the door, and then you come join me. So it moved pretty quick, though.
Yeah,
but
I voted by mail this time, which is really, I think, fascinating for me, because I admittedly get trapped in the voting booth and see names on a ballot, and I don't know who these people are. Worse yet, I don't know what they're talking about. So there was something about, hey, do you think we should elect the executive form of government instead of home rule?
Right.
And I'm thinking, I thought we just went through a home rule issue like 4 years ago or 8 years ago. Like it's been a thing. And I'm like, the executive form of government in our county, I don't even know what we're talking about. And it struck me that most people will get to the voting booth because go through the grocery store and survey the average person and think, do they know what the executive form of government is versus home rule for their county? No, they don't. And I don't. And I'm a pretty informed individual.
I'm still catching up. Okay.
So I went online, I Googled, and I was like, executive form of government versus home rule. I was like, oh, gotcha. Okay, this makes sense. I can understand this. And so I knew how to vote in that scenario. Or, other people on the ballot. Like I didn't know that we had certain governmental parties there was, it wasn't, I meant to take a picture of it. There was some, I can't remember what the party was that I could have voted for something. It's like, are you kidding me? Did you just make?
Wasn't the green? It was something new.
No, it was something totally green. It was like, it's not totally green. It was something totally new. Right? It wasn't the Green Party. It wasn't Libertarian. It was something like the Party for the Deaf. I don't know. It's like, okay, we're making these things up, aren't we? Which is fine. I think, isn't that the beauty of the United States, where we could just make stuff up and throw it on a ballot?
You can write in whatever you want. It was like, I think the one of the categories was the county treasurer or something, or the clerk of court or something like that.
Yeah.
And so there was a name, or you could write in, and I'm like, I don't know. Okay, I just filled in the bubble because I don't care about that. That didn't matter to me.
Yeah.
So who am I going to write in? If she really wants it, go for it.
Right.
So yeah, I'm glad it's over, and I've talked to a few friends today, and everybody is. Everyone leading up to this is like, oh my gosh, it's going to be like civil war afterwards, and it's going to be craziness. And
I think one of my big takeaways from this election was that the fear mongering is not it actually doesn't work its way out on a very individual level, right? Like none of the people that I went out last night and hung out with some people to watch the election results. That kind of fear mongering is that the news is portraying, like we're watching, like, oh my God, this is terrible, is not existent in my day-to-day life.
Out in the real world. Yeah.
And the results showed that. The country is always polarized. That's what we do.
Right.
That's what people do when you put them in groups. We get in groups and we polarize each other from other groups. That just happens. And I get that. That can be aggravated by rhetoric, right? But everybody has rhetoric. It's part of politics. And it's a storyline. Everybody wants you to believe a story. But the story isn't necessarily true. And that's where I think, you would think that, let's say Biden would have some blowout for as much as the media is talking about, how terrible Trump as an individual is. You'd think, right, like, oh my God, why isn't he won by an 80% margin?
Yeah.
And
that's a lot of the talk today. Just how, again, was it accidentally really, really screwed up, or, was there some kind of bias involved? And I'm somebody, I personally don't really pay that much attention to the polls anyway. I know what I want to do. I go do my thing, and ultimately, hopefully my life is not going to end because the guy that I voted for didn't win. We're going to keep going on, and if the guy that said he's going to make everything wonderful doesn't, then people will figure that out.
Well, we have cities are boarding up windows and all this other stuff. It's like here's my gut. I could be wrong on this, but I think that the average individual who's rioting is also not watching the results.
Oh, 100%.
They're not like, let me listen to ABC for the next 48 hours while I listen. Like, I can't wait. Like bated breath here. When do I riot? When is the moment I get to riot? That's not what rioting is. So I I think that, to me, that's an indication. And again, it's just my opinion. It's an indication that the fear mongering of, like, God, this massive tidal wave of venom is going to crash into us. It's like, no, I think that wears itself out pretty quickly.
Well, I'm somebody that I like I like to study words, and I like for people to when they use your words properly.
Yeah.
So when I hear anybody, when I hear this is a constitutional crisis, and all the inflammatory stuff, it just, when I hear that, I'm like, okay, click, I shut off, because you're now not talking rationally, and you're not.
Right. Well, it kind of gets back to like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So if on the bottom it is physiological needs, safety needs, belongingness and love, esteem and self-actualization, where is the average voter on Maslow's hierarchy of needs? Where is the average rioter on Maslow's hierarchy of needs? And I think we need to just kind of embrace this idea that our system is designed to have discord. We are designed to be in discord so that we are required to resolve it. That's the beauty of the system. That's why we have a House, we have a Senate, we have a president, and we have a judicial system. Mm-hmm. And everybody keeps each other in check. And the beauty of the system is that we can come at this from completely different directions, maybe wanting different destinations. And I think many times we don't. We want the same destination, but we come into it trying to solve the needs in different ways. And we clash. And the average voter knows how to clash and resolve it. I just feel like the fear mongering, I've had enough of it. I mean, it's hard to see through. To me, I feel like it's hard to see through what's real and what's not real, because I know that we are being lied to. We're getting a smokescreen in some way.
All over the place.
Yeah. And of course we are. There are individuals speaking words. It's just people. And there's no such thing as an unbiased fact from a person's mouth.
Yeah.
It's like the same words could come out, the same actual words could come out, and the meaning could be twisted based on the inflection. I mean, that's what we get. We are people.
Yeah.
So I invite the discord. I think we need to learn how to argue properly, argue with respect. Yeah. And I think that's what we might need to tweak a little bit.
I have, I've got friends that are on opposite sides of the fence that I'm on. And we've always been able to have those discussions, and nobody pulled each other's hair and hit anybody, and we've stayed.
They didn't smash your windows or burn your house down?
I didn't have to board anything up. And I was talking to a friend of mine in outside of Detroit today, and just talking about how, because I had sent them a message on Facebook, and she said, "Oh, I'm just not even looking at Facebook right now because of, everybody is just mad at each other and all this and blah." And I'm like, I said, okay, well, I don't think that's a reason. I think, it's just like anything. You make Facebook what you want. I use my profile for positivity. I don't even talk about politics on Facebook, unless I'm just like, making some kind of little joke, like I did when we started talking. I heard there was an election last night, but I'm not going to get on there and spew my opinion and attack anybody. I don't do that. So I'm like, well, we can't stop living. And not that Facebook is life, but let's just be normal. And she said, I've got people, that are not being friends with other people anymore. And, you can't even talk about it, and that's when it does get a little silly.
It is. It does get silly, and the social media feeds into this. It's algorithmically based, designed to continue to give you the things that you engage with. Also designed to screen out the things you don't engage with. So couple that with the concept that the more a person believes something, the more likely they are to believe it, which seems like an asinine thing to say. But the principle is, the first time you said, this isn't true, I went, really? I don't know. I think you're wrong, right? And they said, but no, it's not true. And you're like, I don't know. And then we hung out for 10 years and we're like, oh my God, you're right. They are terrible people.
Yeah.
Totally. And we get sound bites. So if you look at this from a broad perspective, we get sound bites from the media, not based on facts, not based on all the facts, at least, just sound bites out of people's mouths. So they're skewed, they're biased in some way. Again, not just the words, the inflection. The 70% of the 70% of the information that was the nonverbal cues that we took in to create meaning from the 30% that they said. That's what happened. And then you get more of us together, and we are designed to be in groups to protect each other and kick the others out. You end up exactly where we are. And if you don't have a leader, and God bless Trump for all sorts of things, but what he's not really great at is bringing people together.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have him as my psychologist, right? Or my family therapist. And somebody made a good point. I think it was George Stephanopoulos made a good point, that when a country was in crisis, there was it FDR who had fireside chats?
Mm-hmm.
He operated as a leader, a unifier, like a father figure almost, which I think, call me old school, I think you need a father figure at some points in time, particularly when you get into trouble. And the father sits down with everybody and says, hey, I know you're all arguing, family. Let me remind you, we are all family. And today's lesson is, right? And that lesson is designed to get us to get out of our camps, to get out of our protectionist mode. And it's that protectionist rhetoric that if you applied these principles in a family, you would have one brother fighting against the other. And that's just not the way to do it. So
yeah,
I mean, but at the same time, 50% of people clearly want this, 50% of people want that. And they're really looking at different things. That I believe they're actually looking at different things. They're valuing different things in their minds. And that's the whole point of this. The thing I value is not the thing that you value. And we got to come to some middle ground. Why? So that we have mutually beneficial values. Without that discord, we're lost. We have the opportunity to have discord. We need to learn how to have it well.
Yeah. And we're just in this place of, and not that I feel like anyone has to sacrifice what they hold dear and what they believe, but we're just in this place of the polarization has become very, very strong. And like you were saying earlier, we're being goaded into hating each other over those different beliefs, wherein that was not the way it used to be. I mean, I became a citizen 3 years ago. I've been back in the country for 26 years. I was out of the country for 7 years, and before that I was here for 8 years, going to finishing high school, going through college, got married. So I've watched politics, American politics, for a long time. And it's just like, just in the last, I don't know, probably 2 or 3 election cycles, it's just like slowly gotten, worse and worse. And the big thing with Trump is the fact that he was such an outsider. And so I think it was that factor of, how dare somebody that isn't a part of, and both on both sides. I'm talking both sides, both Democrats and Republicans. When you talk about establishment, how dare you? Whether he did good stuff or bad stuff, it was like, this infection that came in.
Yeah. How did we get somebody from outside the political system?
Yeah.
How did this happen? I think this is because if you look at the evolution of the United States, you went from people who were not career politicians. They're just well-meaning guys, business people. I'm sure they had selfish reasons too, and why not?
Mm-hmm.
But they knew they had a time limit. This is coming to an end, and they didn't get paid shit for what they were doing.
Yeah,
they all had stuff. They had skin in the game to make the company great for the stuff they already had going on. Then you'll get good decisions. You'll get good political decisions when I already got stuff going on. Somehow this morphed, and probably necessarily so in some ways, to career politicians who all they do is legislate.
Right.
Why did that become such a complicated matter?
Because they are there too long. That's part of the problem.
Yeah.
When you have people that are there for 20, 30, 40 years, that's their life. And wherein if they truly were being cycled in and out, you're constantly getting new perspectives. And we're just on the outside slowly watching all of this. I can't see how any of those people like each other or even speak to each other in the hallway. I just don't see how they can.
The only way I think I don't know. I don't really truly know what goes on behind the scenes. I know a handful of politicians, and I get some of the behind the scenes look. Again, they're really just people.
Yeah.
And some of them are well-meaning, and some of them I think are not.
Yeah.
How so selfish are you? It's just a scale for each of us. But I agree with that, and I've often wondered this too. Like, are they friends? Do they ever sit at like the same dining room table? Is it like Google and it was Tim Cook and what's his noodle who runs Google? They were seen at a restaurant not all that long ago, sitting down together having dinner. You get the CEOs of two of the largest tech companies in the world sitting down at dinner, and the question is why? And they're just having a good time. The reason was they were negotiating on it was kind of about the time that they're negotiating a major contract for Google to be selling search results to Apple so that Apple can include them in their iPhones. These companies are rivals across a major percentage of their of their service lines. However, it's mutually assured destruction or mutually assured gain. So we go to mutually assured gain and we have dinner with each other. That's what I hope. I kind of hope those types of things happen at these levels, but I feel like some of this is so ingrained. Certainly the rhetoric that you would believe out there, or that I would believe, that I feel, is that somehow that we have enemies of each other in the Senate and the House. And I think the whole principle of our society is lost then.
Yeah.
And I think some of it is because because we have career politicians. But hey, you know what? I'm not a poli-sci major. I don't know. I didn't study this stuff. There are people smarter than me, in these topics. But maybe that was the point to begin with, that we didn't need poli-sci majors to countries. I don't know.
Well, and an example of something that we should really like to see and hope that it's more the norm than not is, when the recent Supreme Court hearing, the Amy hearings at the end, when Graham and Feinstein hugged each other, and she thanked him for running a good hearing. And she caught such crap over that, and I thought, why? Why? These are two peers that, clearly, respect each other, and that should be an example. They disagree so much in terms of policy and everything, but they have respect for each other. And why can't that be an example to us rather than, she be attacked for it,
Right?
Or he be
No,
attacked.
I completely agree with you. I think, and I hope, and I can't remember who it was, but to your point, I listen to some of that stuff because I tend to, I want to be informed, right? Like, what's all the hoopla over? And so I watched some of the hearings and the excerpts and whatnot. And right at the end there was a guy, Democratic leader, and he said, I want to thank you for going through this. You made mention that your family has taken a lot of heat for this, and he says I don't take that lightly. He says we've all been here before. It's a process. I honor you that you went through this process. You chose to go through this process, and I hope that it hasn't been too hard on your kids and all this other stuff. But he knows that it's just part of the dance. Part of the dance is you have to be grilled, and rightly so. Like, grill this woman up and down, sideways, back and forth. Press her to see if she's going to blow her lid, because you kept on pissing her off. You kept on poke for 30 hours. If you don't blow your lid by then, come on in. I think that's got to be part of it, right?
Yeah, like, you know what? Maybe she'll be all right.
Right, exactly. She can handle the pressure. And it's got to be part of it, right? Like, turn up the heat, and you'll find out, like, if you want to bake an enamel on something, you got to turn up the heat. If you want to take a metal and transform its properties, you turn up the heat. You want to take glass and turn it into something beautiful, you got to turn up the heat.
Yeah.
I believe that I believe that part of the principle is you just got to turn up the heat. You got to go through the process, and if you can handle that heat, you're better for it. Number one, and two, you're better for us. So let's turn it up. Do it.
Yeah.
It's fine. But don't get mean. Don't get mean and nasty on the kids and all this other stuff. Question judgment all you want, because this person is going to be somebody who's going to be deciding in the participating in this grand scheme of democracy.
Yeah.
And deciding real matters of principle. So yeah, I think she knew what she was getting herself into, and I think whoever said it, I can't remember who said it. I think it was somebody from the from the left side, right? Said something like, you're one of the best, you're one of the best answerers that we've ever had.
Yeah.
Like, she is. You listen to that stuff, you're like, wow,
yeah,
this is complicated stuff, and your wording and how you're choosing to say this and stuff. It's like, yeah, absolutely, I would trust you.
I think she showed such restraint. Even there were a couple of parts that were a little. I was like, okay, is this where she loses it?
Right? Does she start yelling? Does she slam her hand on the table? Does she start crying? Like, where's the emotional break?
Yeah.
And I think really that's part of it. Can you separate out the emotion so far away from you that you can just see the facts? Just see this individual who you want to leap. I'm sure you would just want to leap across the table and strangle him. But you won't. And that's good. Yeah. The other thing we got going on in Illinois here is that somebody asked, we got this progressive tax thing on the books. Should we have a progressive tax or should we not have a progressive tax? Because right now the income tax is all one level. When you make a buku bucks, you make nothing. It's just one level. The deductions are different. So there's that.
Right.
But they want to make a progressive tax so that they could tax different income levels separate from the other ones. And it's a big stinker of a question. And everybody who I've asked about this, or who I didn't ask them, actually, they've offered opinions, unsolicited opinions. around drinks or whatever.
Imagine that.
Right. Which is fine. The reasoning that the people who've said, no, we don't want that, is not a reason of whether it should or shouldn't be done. The reason is, I don't trust the government, the leaders, to actually be fair. I don't trust those people that if we gave them the power, that they wouldn't use it maliciously, basically, against certain populations. And that is key, I think, in a lot of this stuff. We have lost the ability to reason, not the ability, we've lost the reasoning of the facts, of the reasoning of the principles, the reasoning of the choice, and of whether we should or shouldn't do something into, it's been masked by whether I trust the people with the power. This is an election of trust. That's our issue. We have these factual decisions, whether we should or shouldn't do something at a government level, is now a questioning whether the people in charge are trustworthy or not. And unfortunately, we're finding, like anybody, they can't be trusted implicitly. They can't. There's got to be checks and balances. And so the most we can hope for is that we do have some sort of discord, and invite it. This wouldn't be the first time I didn't see something and somebody who disagreed with me told me. So why would government be any different? It'd be a weird place if we had one party and we just kind of did that. You can look around the world and there are all sorts of countries that do that. And we don't want to live there.
No.
So don't complain too much.
Why I became an American.
A system that's working pretty well.
Yeah. I agree. Well, hopefully we won't have to go too much longer though, and know what's going to happen, and then everybody can just kind of start mentally moving on. Because I've already decided I'm, just shutting all of it out once I know what's happening. I don't want to hear anything. It's just been too much this year, so y'all just start figuring it out. I know there's gonna be lots of lawsuits and all kinds of stuff, so I'm just gonna dismiss myself. I'm putting myself in timeout.
And even to that whole lawsuit point, the people who are saying, oh my gosh, they're bringing lawsuits. That's actually the way the system works. The system works because you can't just go ask. You can't just be, hey, could we get a such and such on that? The answer is no. You have to bring it to a court, and the court will decide.
Yeah. That's
the way the system works.
Yeah.
Okay, so stop making it such a big deal. Of course there are lawsuits. There's lawsuits all the damn time over things that just need to be decided.
I told my wife today at lunch, I was in the kitchen getting something, and the television was on, because at this point, wherever you put it, there's some panel dissecting everything right now.
Yeah.
And I just turned around, I looked at her, I said, we've listened to this ad nauseum for 4 years. What can they possibly have to talk about again today? It just amazes me that they have so much time to talk about the same thing hour after hour after hour. And that's why I think we all are just better off if we shut it out for a little while, because we'll go crazy. And that's why people are fighting with each other,
Yeah, well, at this point, what more is there to be done? The votes have been cast. They'll all be counted. And it's neat. It's fun. It's interesting to hear, that Trump makes a comment. When I was there, I heard the comment live, but we don't want them finding votes at 4 a.m. I think I know what he might have meant.
Yeah.
I think what he meant. And it was a little bit inflammatory, like, whoa, wait a second. I think you just said that we should stop counting the votes now. I think that's what you just said. Maybe what you really meant was you don't want any fake votes out there, which nobody does.
Yeah.
But why'd you bring it up? What could possibly be the point?
I honestly, I think there's a large element of So go. I want to say this right. So going back to using words properly, yeah, I think sometimes just because he's not this polished politician, he doesn't say things the way, you know, Clinton or Bush or Obama would have said them. And that's what gets him in trouble sometimes. I don't think he means it the way a lot of people interpret it. But also at the same time, I think there's an element of he also likes to bait you. And
Oh yeah. He knows how to. He knows how to get people going,
yeah,
and he does this as a negotiation tactic. I'm pretty sure. I think he just riles people up, just because he knows that it works.
Yeah.
And ta-da! I don't know who you think has been tap dancing in front of you for all this time. He has been tap dancing, and we keep looking because he knows how to do it. And some of his policy stuff, I don't disagree with his policies. I would not teach my children to speak the way he speaks. Those are two different things.
Right.
So, but I also wouldn't teach my children to be politicians and just not say what they really think and just kind of say whatever's going to get a vote.
Yeah.
So what do you want?
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. I want to know, say what you mean what you say, and then I can figure out if I like it or not, make a decision.
Yeah. Neither side can be trusted implicitly. Both sides need to be fact checked pretty much all the time. Fact checked probably with more rigor on more difficult topics. Beyond that, ultimately, I don't know Trump personally. I don't know Biden personally. I don't. I only know what comes through the filter, and I know what exits their mouths. That's it. And so I don't judge them as individuals. It's not my. I'm not close enough to do that, I think. But everybody should vote how they in their own conscience needs to vote, and then I'll leave the rest up to God.
No, that's what I'm doing. I'm waiting for the decision. I'm not going to sit here and watch cable 24/7 until they tell us what it is. Like I said, I'm putting myself in timeout, and I got other things to do. There are other people to be fighting that battle for the next few days or week or whatever it is.
I'm not sure if it was the Bush-Clinton election or if it was the Trump-Clinton election. One of them wasn't decided until mid-December.
Oh, wasn't it the Gore?
Was it the Gore? Was it the Gore-Bush one?
Pads and all that stuff.
I can't remember.
Yeah, Bush Gore.
It's possible. Yeah.
2000.
That's what. This is the system. It's working just as it's supposed to.
Yeah.
I mean, what more would a person want? This is great. Plus, it makes for great feeder. Great for great TV.
Oh my gosh! All these cable news people—they're all just like having a heyday.
And one of the great benefits out of this is that according to the media, the voter turnout was 20% higher than average. So whoever did whatever to get people out to the polls to consider their lives as they are regulated and managed by your government, that was a big deal. So congrats to everybody. And whether that took some tap dancing in front of us for a while, who cares? Great job. Bravo.
People
are paying attention.
The process serious. Yes, they paid attention. And so we'll see.
This has been Coffee with Humans. Subscribe to get updates or click to have coffee with me. coffeewithhumans.com.